Welcome to Ease in Real Life, the podcast where we embrace joy, authenticity, and peace through all of life's ups and downs. I'm your host, Kijana, and each week we'll explore practical tools, real stories, and meaningful conversations to help you create a life that feels lighter and more aligned. Welcome to another episode of Ease in Real Life. I'm your host, Kijana. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. We did miss a week last week. It started, I'll be fully transparent with you. It started out as some technical difficulties that I was having getting the video uploaded and downloaded and stitched together and blah, blah, blah. Um, I found some new software to use. Yay. However, when I did finally get everything stitched together, I noticed that there was a scratching noise in the audio, and I just decided that I didn't want to put it out. It was bothering me anytime that I tried to listen to it, and I felt like I didn't want that noise to take away from the significance of this episode. And so I just decided to re-record it. That all kind of like came to a head last Friday, um, at the same time that I had an infused dinner that I was hosting. And so I wasn't really able to get everything done and uploaded and re-recorded in time for last week. And eventually I just kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what, this is okay. This is okay because I haven't really explained this to you guys yet, but every month there's kind of a new theme. And so by pushing it back to this week, we were able to, and by we, I mean me, able to just like align the themes to the months, which I think will be better and just more, easier to follow for everyone, including myself. And also, yeah, I just didn't want to keep fighting with technology and kind of fighting with myself. Obviously, that's not the point of this podcast. It's all about creating ease. And I have to say, like, keeping it all the way real, this has really not been an easy week for me. I have actually really kind of been struggling this week, like mentally, emotionally, physically a little bit, but not as bad. But yeah, it's just been a really tough week for me. I was like so fulfilled and excited about the dinner that I hosted last week, but I was also like immediately met with challenges. Those of you who are following along on the licensing journey know that the BCB pushed our hearing date back to May, and that was like a huge blow, especially because they had indicated that they would grant us a special hearing if we requested it, which we did, and they didn't. And no surprise there, like I know that the BCB and the CCC are going to continue to disappoint me, and that's part of the reason why I so desperately want to remove myself from this Massachusetts cannabis industry. I hate feeling the way that these people have so much control over my life, and like my livelihood. It really, really is a struggle for me. I've been dealing with a lot of just like feeling very stuck this last week, and that's like a really hard feeling for me too. Yeah, I'm struggling. Like I'll be so real with you. This has been a really hard time. Um and I'm just tired. I'm just tired, to be honest with you. I'm just really, really tired. And it was just like a bummer because I had done this dinner last Friday and it was amazing. And I know that everyone was there, had such a great time. Myself included, I had such a great time too. But it was a really draining effort. And I was like really excited in the moment. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this again. And then immediately within 48 hours, I was like, actually, I don't think I'll be able to do something like that again. I'm so sorry. But I just realized that I have other things that I need to prioritize, like my happiness. And um, part of what is going to make me happy in this lifetime is leaving Boston, leaving Massachusetts. Part of my stuckness comes from the city and, like the experience that I've had, like even in my neighborhood in the last month has only pushed me further away. Like it's only demonstrated to me how much I really need to go. Um, Not because I feel like I'm not wanted here, and that certainly happens sometimes, but because I feel like I can't thrive here. In fact, I know I can't. And it's become so clear to me that, like, even people around me, it's easier for them to see me struggle and support me from that place than to actually allow me to thrive and support me from that place. And that's a hard realization to come to as well. But these are just the real things that are going on in my heart and in my life. And yeah, I just really have been able to kind of reground into my priorities. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm super grateful for, everything that's happened in the last week. And, we are still in this eclipse moment, guys. Things are still being exposed in a very, very big way. And, I'm certainly not exempt from that exposure. Things are being exposed to me too. And I have a promise to the universe, to God, that when she shows me things, I'm going to see and I'm going to hear and I'm going to take it into account and move forward accordingly. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working towards. So, that's what's been on my mind and my heart and my soul. Um Not my best week, but definitely one of my worst. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm grateful to be able to sit here and to just like giggle with you guys. I definitely am like in a very low energy place, and I was nervous about sitting down and trying to record this episode from that place, but I really want this episode to come out. I really wanted it to come out last week. I was super disappointed in myself and in the technology that I wasn't able to get it out, but hopefully it will land when and where and how it needs to land. Um, so yeah, so we're in a new month, and this month is really all about personal growth and development. And I definitely feel like this episode and the next episode might feel a little bit more technical. They might feel like a little bit more like talky. This is obviously a solo episode. It's just me, and it has been a while since we've had a solo episode, and I have missed you guys. Um, and then for the rest of the month, we have some interviews coming up, and I'm really excited. Next week, we're going to have my interview with Rach Junard, and it's all about regulating the nervous system. And I know that, like, we recorded that last week, and I'm so grateful because ooh, the way I have been needing to regulate and have been and did and will and continue to. That one's a good one. So stay tuned for that. Today's episode, however, is all about the adult stages of development. I feel like we learn a lot about childhood development, child stages of development, and like I was a psych major for like a month, if you know, you know. Um, and so like studied these things a little bit more extensively. In general, I majored in human services, so I you go through this kind of stuff, right? In those majors, I had an education major for a little while, or minor, I can't remember, drop that. Um, but yeah, so we learn a lot about the childhood stages of development, but I feel like we don't learn as much about the adult stages of development. And I'm being really careful with my mic this week. I don't want another scratching situation to happen. And also, Grits, the cat, decided to chew on one of the mics. That was really frustrating, not gonna lie. Um, and that's the second mic he's broken because I had a much larger Yeti mic that he chewed through the cords of. So it might not look like it right now, but we are actually struggling this week. And this is about the closest we've been in many hours. And he's really just taking advantage of a situation where he knows I can't really do much. And that's that. And they say cats aren't smart, but anyways. So I have my notes here. It's a lot of notes, so don't be surprised if I'm looking at it a lot. And I do just want to say, like, this, all the stuff that I'm about to talk about is not like my proprietary knowledge. I don't think. I mean, like, I've certainly taken bits and pieces from different places, and kind of put them together in a way that I feel like makes the most sense. But and I'll give you guys some more recommendations at the end. But Suzanne Cook Grouter has a piece, The Nine Levels of Increasing Embrace and Ego Development. And I believe a lot of this is derived from that. So, and I do recommend that. And I recommend Suzanne Cook Grouter. Um, yeah, if you are interested in this time of work. Okay, let's get into it. So, right away, just to like kind of lay some foundation on like what is the adult stages of development. Um, we can like we, me, Suzanne, the others. I don't know if it was we. I just like use that word, but I really have no. We, maybe Grits and I don't know. But essentially, the idea is that like there are specific ways that adults um view the world through their own development, specific patterns that adults view the world through their development. We consider adult development to be something that's vertical as opposed to horizontal, which is like skills based development. Horizontal is like skill based development. Vertical development is like the essentials of living human life, essentially, because those essentials change as you develop. I mean, a lot of them do. As your brain develops, the awarenesses around those skills and a- aspects of life change. And what usually happens, what hopefully happens, is that as your adult brain develops and your adult stages of development are happening, your view and vision of the world is expanding, right? Like it starts with a much more narrowed view and understanding, and it expands as you grow and as you go. Um, so, yeah, let's get into it. We've got the first three stages, which are the conventional stages. And these are the doing stages. These are the very much so aligned with the patriarch and the divine masculine, especially because we are like a society kind of across the board. For the most part, we're like really steeped in patriarchy. And so these stages, like doing and masculinity, those things are aligned, whereas like femininity is more of like the being. um and so yes, these stages are very much so associated with that animus ego mind, for those of you who are working on ego development. And this is a big part of ego development. In fact, I should say this too, like, for those of you who have ever done shadow coaching with me, this is the first thing that we talk about. This is the first thing that I go over in my shadow coaching program, because I use this as an assessment that we do together to figure out kind of like where you are and where you're heading. Um, yeah. And the other interesting thing about the stages of adult development is that we can go back to stages. We can go back, we can jump and then go back. That can happen a lot more in this level of development. Okay, now I'm ready to get into it. So, starting with the first conventional stage, which is the diplomat or the peacemaker. This stage is very focused on belonging to a group and keeping the peace within that group. If there is confrontation in this stage, it's an us versus them. It wouldn't be a conflict or a confrontation within the group, because in this stage, your biggest goal is to keep the group together, because you are receiving your identity from the group. And so, in order for your identity to stay founded, you need the group to stay together. And so, your work is to essentially keep the peace, right? Um, Being exiled from that group is the biggest threat to your life at that time. Losing the group, not having the group mind, the group mentality to steer you is the biggest threat. And like I said, conflicts with other group is expected. Other groups are expected. conflicts within the group are not acceptable at this time. It won't feel good. It'll really feel like your whole world is kind of crashing down around you. In this stage, feedback can feel really scary and really threatening to you too. It can feel like your world is ending in a way, someone's judging you in a way that you aren't ready for or haven't really opened yourself up for. The gifts of this stage are that you are great at bearing traditions. You're great at making sure that people are compliant and conforming to the norms, and you're usually really good at working on teams at this time because, again, creating harmony among team members is something that's really integral to like your day to day activities. This stage is related to the sacral chakra. It is deeply related to our emotional body and our empathic energy. And so we see this stage a lot in like the early 20s. Um, from this stage, you move into the expert stage or the knowledge seeker stage. In this stage, you have more capacity, you have clearer boundaries. This stage allows you to start to develop your skill set. And what's interesting about this stage is that you are gaining some individuality from the group, but you still very much so exist within the purpose of the group, right? So, like, your skill set is an advantage of yours, but really of the groups, right? I'm just trying to think of an example. And I just remember that I had some friends when I was in my young 20s who were like really great photographers and really great videographers. And then that was just kind of like the role they took in the group of like now they are everybody's photographers, everybody's videographers. And that later led to some issues. But at that time, it really worked. You know what I mean? And they were happy to do it and to be that because it gave them a sense of importance, but it still firmly planted them within their group and within that group identity. So even though there's some more individualism coming in at this stage, at the expert, the knowledge seeker stage, very, very much so still tied to your group. You at this point believe that the best way for you to contribute is to develop this like in depth expertise in this area, in this skill set. And your opinions are very definitive at this stage. You have little capacity to accept others' opinions of what you are becoming an expert in. If it's an area outside of your perceived expertise, then you're fine with that. You can accept that and you can hear that. But within your perceived expertise, no, no, you're not there yet. You are definitely at a point where you're like, nope, I know. And what I know is what I know. And who cares what I don't know? You know what I mean? Um, in this stage, you have very definitive ideas about right versus wrong. And again, little flexibility. It's still pretty much tied to that group mentality. And so there's not a lot of kind of movement there, but the drive really is to know like the right answer. And that can be really interesting and really tricky at this stage because oftentimes what you perceive to be the right answer, quote unquote, is what the group, what the mass kind of believes, right? It doesn't always have to actually be the right answer at this stage quite yet. It doesn't have to be. Um, you get a lot of self esteem from knowing the right answer. A lot of your self confidence, a lot of your self worth at this time comes from your knowledge in that area and your expertise in that area, and that other people are coming to you for that expertise. That's a big part of it. Feeling empowered in that way is a really big part of it. It's a big part of keeping you grounded in that area, for sure. In this stage, the fear is like looking stupid. It's truly the worst thing is that you don't want to look like an idiot, especially to your peers, especially to your group, right? You really want them to trust you as the guiding light, at least in that area. You do have more capacity to deal with conflict at this stage, like even within your group, conflicts arise and you can deal with that and you can overcome that. There's still a desire to be a peacemaker here, or a diplomat, like from the previous stage, but accepting that there are multiple opinions on things is much more realistic at this point. the gifts of this stage are that you are great at taking on new tasks and learning new skills, and this stage is activated by the solar plexus chakra. All right, moving on to the third stage, the final conventional stage, which is the achiever stage. So, in the achiever stage, you have an even greater capacity to see the bigger picture and understand like differing opinions. That's like really okay now. You are very much so understanding of the fact that people are going to have different opinions and accepting of that. In this stage, you're very much so focused on your goals and your outcomes. Like, this is a big building stage. It's called the achiever stage because you are focused on achieving and generating output, and for that output to feel successful. And for some in this stage, just generating output is going to feel successful. For like those of you who are into human design, like the generators in this stage, like just working a 16-hour day, that's going to feel successful to you. It doesn't have to be at the most lucrative job or the most lucrative position. It's like, no, but that you're doing it, and like that's going to feel really really good, just being out there every day. um it is a little bit more nuanced though. This stage, you're definitely able to work smarter to achieve your goals. The key is about this stage is that you're starting to have goals that actually do like I don't want to say they differ from the group, but they're definitely yours, if that makes sense. So like you're really focused on achieving this goal. I can't fully say with or without the group, because like you want to achieve the goal because of your motivation and inspiration within the group, but you're probably at this point so locked in that you're gonna strive to achieve that goal with or without. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not going to be the exact same people surrounding you by the time you achieve this goal, but you're very invested in your goal at this point. You're very invested in creating plans and strategies to complete your goals. Very, very, very invested at this point. And mostly you're doing that with the people around you. But again, there's a level of independence that's coming in this stage because your success is yours. You will certainly share it with the group. You will always share your stage and your platform with the group in this stage, but it's yours. You do have an even greater capacity for holding conflict. This is the point where you're able to accept feedback without feeling threatened or offended. This is the point where hopefully, right? Hopefully you have some people around you that can give you feedback. So I'll give you a really good example of this actually. Um, at the time when I was in this stage, in my achiever stage, I was working at Northeastern and I was working on a project with Major League Baseball. We were like creating some like educational pathways for people that had signed to Major League Baseball. And I would be like meeting with various like senior leadership throughout the university and that type of thing. And I was in a meeting one time, and I remember I was in this meeting, and the senior leader, the senior vice president rather, asked me a question. And I think it was clear that I didn't really know the answer, I didn't really have the answer, but I attempted to answer. And my initial kind of like reaction was like very defensive. And I responded from a place of like defensiveness. And after that meeting, a colleague pulled me aside, someone who I was friends with, and she said to me, you don't have to be so defensive all the time. And normally I would have taken a comment like that and I would have been defensive. Like, I'm a Black woman in America. So I quite do have to be defensive all the time, actually. Um, but I knew that this person actually did have my best interest at heart, and I was able to like hear her out. And she was like, yeah, if you don't know the answer to something, it's okay for you to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And like truthfully, that hadn't been my experience, but not necessarily because it wasn't true, just because like that's the conditioning of society that I've had put on me up until that point. And so it was a moment where I was able to take a step back and be like, oh, you're right. I don't always have to be so defensive. I can say, oh, I don't have the answer to that. I will get back to you. And I can do that. And so it was like that reality, that person's kind of interjection in that moment that like actually gave me some freedom to be like, oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to have that. Um, and I'm still to this day super, super grateful that that person did that because it really, really did change my capacity, my energy within those spaces, to be honest with you. Um, this stage is very much so activated by the heart chakra. The gifts of this stage are that you're able to be more inclusive of others and accept opinions, and that you can kind of see beyond the rules to decide what's right versus wrong. This is the point where you're really starting to understand right versus wrong. Hopefully, right? Not everybody gets there, but hopefully you are really just starting to see that bigger picture. Now, we are transitioning from the conventional stages, the doing stages, to the post conventional stages, which are more of like the being stages, right? And I will say that, like, often going from the third stage of the conventional stages to the first stage of the post conventional stages is dark. Dark, 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 dark. Have you heard of a dark night of the soul? You're having it here if you haven't already. um that is a dark time. It's just tough because, like, again, this is all about ego awareness, right? A big part of your ego is going to be eliminated from that achiever stage going into the fourth stage, right? The post first stage of the post conventional. So this stage kind of has two names. It can be the individualist stage or the pluralist stage, depending on which way you kind of take it. But this is the stage where you are really shedding the need for society's approval. This is the point where you are realizing that society's views are not always based in reality. And sometimes they're not at all based in your reality. And that's really important. And a lot of times they don't have to be. You know what I mean? Even if they are in that moment, they don't have to be forever. Um, so yeah, there are two approaches to this stage. One is that you kind of go within and you do all your self discovery within. You shed that desire for external approval, not engagement, because like we're social beings as humans, but you use social engagement to inform you of who you are, not to, and who you're not, if that makes sense. Like, not to dictate who you are, but to inform you, right? Um, if you go the individualist way, you develop the capacity to see the world through your individual lens. And it is obviously, right, so based on your experiences that you're having and the learning that you're allowing yourself to do within those experiences. Um, the other way is that you can connect with others and you can, do that world study, right? To try and gain like a real understanding of a multitude of stories and experiences and cultures and just different versions of living life, being a human. And so you develop a world lens based on that pluralistic view, right? Um, I think some people do both. You know what I mean? I was just trying to think in my head. I'm like, which way did I go? And I would say that I think I went the pluralist way, but I certainly think I've had a lot of the individualist time as well. And I'm grateful for that. This is a really powerful stage. This is a big, expansive stage. This is a stage where You are really stepping into your soul's purpose. This stage is often aligned with our Saturn return. Um, like I said earlier, this can be a hard stage. This can be really depressing. This can be a little bit dark. This can feel a little bit isolating. As you do start to find your soul's purpose, that can feel a little bit overwhelming. And this stage can just, yeah, it can be definitely difficult. It sometimes can feel like you're discovering the world for the first time. Like you're living in many ways for the first time. So many layers of bullshit are um shedding at this point. They're being shed. Yeah. And you know, while you are discovering so much in this moment, there's a lingering fear in this stage that at any time you could just be pulled right back to those conventional stages. Like you could just be pulled right back. It almost doesn't feel real yet, right? In this stage, it almost feels like, you know, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a very woo-woo kind of vibe, right? Like, it's often the stage that we see people really coming into their spirituality, but there's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of questioning that happens in this stage, and rightfully so. This is a stage where you should be questioning everything. You really, really, really should be. And especially, you should be questioning your group. You should be questioning the group mentality, the people around you that have influenced a lot of what you think and what you believe about yourself. That's important. Moving on to the next stage, which is the strategist stage. This is the autonomy stage. This is where higher principles start to take the lead during your decision making process. This is where your morals and your ethics really, really, really come into play. This is where that right versus wrong, beyond what the group was telling you, really starts to take a hold. And in this stage, your perspective is expanded yet again. And yet again, you are able to recognize and see that there is this whole world out there beyond just your little universe, your little rotation, your circle, right? Life is happening beyond that. Um, you are able to really embrace some of the complexities of life in this stage, right? The ambiguities of life. You're able to accept them and embrace them, even, and find a way to move forward successfully with them, knowing that those things are going to be there, right? Life complexities, period. That's a given. We know this, right? And you can really, really start to accept that and ground into that. In this stage. Um, it's not like before where it's like you had to know the right answer. It's so much more flexible. This stage is so much more flexible. It allows you to really recognize that there might be more than one right answer. Or there what was right for someone else might not be right for you, and vice versa. This stage is very much so a huge, huge kind of heart opener, but a huge mind opener too. And those things being opened together, right? That that part of your system is like in such a huge expansion at this point. And so you're taking on and in a lot of information. And one thing that you're learning in this stage is patience. You're learning to be patient rather than to be compulsive. You are learning that you can take and integrate the information rather than just like immediately having to turn around and like spew it right back out. You know, like you're more nuanced as a person at this point. Um, you want to be inclusive in this point. You want to be accepting at this point in your life because it's almost like a responsibility that you have at this point. Excuse me. Um, It's almost like you want to be able to accept others and meet them where they're at because you want people to accept you and meet you where you're at, which you realize is going to be different from the person next to you because that's just the way the cookie crumbles. No two ways the same, right? and that's okay with you, and like really okay. Not just like before when you were like, fine, you can think different of me and that's fine. It is what it is. This is like you can and you should think differently than me because we've had different experiences that have got us to this point. And so we can't think exactly the same because we haven't had it exactly the same. One thing that's important to realize about your ego, right? And this is really all about ego. Your ego is only informed by this lifetime. And so while your ego is important in certain spaces and places and rooms and situations and will have relevance and will have a job to do, it can only go so far because it only has the information from this lifetime. Your ego is a direct result of every experience that you've had. Your ego certainly will try to keep you safe for sure, but can only do so much because, again, really limited to this life's experiences. Your soul, on the other hand, your soul has been here for it all. Your soul has seen you through it up, down, around, sideways, here, there, back, gone again. Your soul has seen the whole thing. And so tapping into your soul for that universal level of information is what's starting to happen here. And in doing that, you're kind of releasing the ego of its duties, right? You're basically saying, like, oh, that's, yeah, no, that's not gonna work anymore, right? And so this is a moment where I'm not a huge like kill your ego person. That's not really my MO. I do believe that there's a time and a place for ego and like many little times and places. I think like me personally, I think to my own day-to-day experience and like for example, what I've been dealing with the licensing, like yeah, I gotta have some ego in that. I gotta have some ego in that or else I'll get torn to shreds. The the owners of Rosendale Cannabis Co. want nothing more than for me to hate myself and to be like fully ashamed of who I am as a human. And my ego won't like let me get there. You know what I mean? Because no, why? And so, yeah, like that is definitely a part of the process. Ego is definitely a part of the process, but I think to have your ego be the driver, be the one steering the ship, that's where we get a little bit fucked up, right? That's where shit really starts to hit the fan because just too limited of a worldview to really be the one guiding you in this experience, which is so much bigger than you and so much bigger than like this one thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, next we are moving in. Hold on, let me just make sure I said everything I wanted to say about that stage. Something that I think is really interesting about that stage is that this is the stage where you realize that you might not be the solution, but you can be a part of the solution. And I think that's really powerful and really important. And it really, again, allows you to release some of that ego from those earlier stages where you had to be the solution, where you were the expert. And if you didn't know it, then nobody could, right? This is a moment where you're like, well, I don't have everything, but what I have, I can give. And what I have and what I can give can help. Um, and it's also, there's a lot of shadow work is happening in this stage. And it's also the part of you where you can start to embrace and accept the parts of you that have been rejected and appreciate too. And that's really important. That's really, really important, especially because you need to be able to accept those parts of you that have been rejected in order to get into this next stage, which is the post autonomous stages. We're stepping into a new set of stages here. And this stage is actually called ego awareness or construct awareness. It can also be called the magician stage or the alchemist stage, but it's pretty much the stage where you're really tapping into your pure consciousness and you are coming up with new solutions to old problems. You're manifesting new solutions to old problems. Um, your shadow integration has happened at this point or is actively ongoing because I do believe that there's like little parts of the shadow that can just like come up, you know, down the line that you're like, didn't even know that that was there, but here it is, like roaring its ugly head. You know what I mean? But shadow integration is it's pretty what's the word that I'm looking for? seamless at this time. It's like constantly happening. You're like, "Yep, that's it. I'm her. That's me, and that's okay. And here's how I'm going to move forward." We're not in this point, you're not in a point where you're like, "Oh, I hate that about myself." You're like, "Oh, wow, that's me." Like that's okay. You know what I mean? You're going to accept it and you're going to move forward. Um, Especially because at this stage, you realize that your thoughts, the words that you're saying, all of that is contributing to your reality in a big way, right? Your thoughts control your reality. And this is the stage where you have fully accepted that and you are so committed to living the reality that you believe is meant for you. And so you're going to align your thoughts with that. Um, This is a stage where I feel like I have gotten to, and then I've kind of slid back a lot. Like just in this last month, I was having a conversation with a friend where I was saying, like, I'm not gonna let myself go back to a place that I've been in that's dark. You know what I mean? Especially around like all the stuff that's going on with licensing and stuff. And I haven't gotten back there yet, but I have started to like get really close to that, and that just like showed me like, oh, I have more work to do. I have more like ego work that I need to do and more that I need to do to keep me out of this, because I certainly don't want to keep going back to that dark place, right? So this is what I mean when I say like you can get to a stage and then you can kind of slide back. You can be at one stage in like all these aspects of your life, and then maybe like relationships, you are just like so far gone. You know what I mean? So show grace to yourself. Not sure if my stomach rumbling. Awkward. But yeah, like show grace to yourself, and just remember that this is like a really fluid process. Lastly, we've got the unitive stage. This is the final stage. And this is just the stage where you are literally one with the universe. You are existing at and from a place of pure consciousness. There's no separation between the self and the other, no separation between you and them, us versus them, nothing like that. It's totally all one collective, one consciousness, one goal, one life kind of vibe. Um, like I said, the shift from the conventional to the post conventional is generally the hardest transition to make. Um, a lot of people, when we are working on coaching, when they come to me, that's like really where they're at. Sometimes from the strategist stage to the ego awareness stage, a lot of times I see that happen like through the course of our work together. Like we start in that first kind of like end of the conventional, going into the post conventional. And by the time we're done with our work, we get to like ending the post conventional, going into the post autonomous. So that's actually a transition that I quite love to be a part of, obviously, because I get to do it with my coaching. And yes, that's it. Those are the stages of adult development. I really, really wanted to share those with you all because I truly believe that understanding those and understanding where you are is something that will allow you to frame your current situation in a way that like you can really work with. You know what I mean? And hopefully it will give you a framework that makes it a little bit easier to work with, to figure out kind of where you are and to eventually get to where you're going. um I would love to know from you guys like where you think you're at, and what your journey of adult development has been like. I know for me, yeah, like I'm constantly, like I said, kind of doing this shadow work. I think that once you get there, you get into that space of awareness with your shadow, it is like a forever thing. You don't really get to like get in and get out. Um I kind of have like a little bit of a gripe, I think, with people who do that, because I'm like, well, you might be choosing not to like have this full human experience, right? Like people who have the conscious awareness to like know that right versus wrong, but they are so comfortable with, whatever their situation is, that they're like not going to choose it. Um I do think that like nobody really gets to skip these, especially if you want to live your life that you committed to. You want to live in the purpose that you committed to before you even arrived here. Like, you're not going to get to like skip one. You know what I mean? You're not going to get to bounce right through or anything like that. Like, I have a friend who, I sometimes when they talk, I notice that they're like speaking like as if they're not human. And they are. You are. Sorry, buddy. You don't get to choose. Like, you're here. You're doing this human life. You know what I mean? So like, you have to be human. You have to be present for this life in humanity. If not, like, the probability to me, in my opinion, is that they're gonna send you right back. You're gonna be right back here to do it again. And hey, you know what, if that's your prerogative, do it. Like, do it. Who cares, right? Do it. Come back. I don't care. Do whatever the hell you want to do. Couldn't be me. I'll pass. I will pass, especially after this week. I'm like, yeah, right, get me out of here. Oh my gosh. So, all right, those are the stages of adult development. I, again, would love to hear from you. There's a spot on my website, by the way. Like, you can DM me on Instagram, you can write a comment on a post, um, or you can go on my website. If you go to kijanarose.com or easeirl.com, there's like a little tab there for Ease in Real Life, and there's a box there where you can write to me. I would love that. That's literally my dream. That is like so my dream, that people will write there to me and like talk to me. Oh my God, I would love if you guys like, no, it doesn't have to be like a, never mind. Too many ideas in my head at once. Can you guys talk to me there though? Please. Also, I do just want to like give a shout to the like 11 people that are steady following along with this podcast. I love every single one of you. I'm so grateful for you. I really, really, really want to grow this podcast and this platform. Right now, like creatively, it is like what I'm giving and what I'm doing. And I do have like other projects that I'm working on, but those are like really taking a back seat just to some other things that I'm, like I said, like reprioritizing in my life. And this is like the thing that I can stay consistent on, and a place where I can like continually be in dialogue with you guys. So I really, really, really want this to grow, and um, for this to continue to be a platform for that. So I hope that you will like share it with someone who might benefit from this information. Please keep listening. Please subscribe. I'm on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, like literally wherever you listen to a podcast, but it will mean so much to me. And it's also like absolutely free. So that like really would mean a lot. Um, Okay, some recommendations for like if you wanted to learn more about this. Like I said, Suzanne Cook Grouder, Nine Levels of Increasing Embrace and Ego Development, would highly, highly recommend. Dr. Jewel Pookrum has a video on YouTube called Seven Circuits of the Brain. Watch that. I really, really enjoyed that. And I felt like the different circuits of the brain were very aligned to the stages of adult development. So I think that's really interesting. I find her very interesting. The books, A Course in Miracles, also find them super interesting and also would recommend those. And then The Four Agreements, kind of an easier read, but I think like also gets to the point. Um, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do a little astrology update. Let me pull up the chart for here and now. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I wake you up? Was that inconvenient for you? My apologies. um, okay. Let's see what we got. Ooh, well, this is what we're looking at. I know you guys can't see. Okay, so we like just had a new moon over the weekend, but was it a new moon? Where is the moon? Was it a new moon last week? Must have been. um Yeah, so we had a new moon and solar eclipse. That's right. That's right. That's right. We did. We're like in eclipses. Ooh, and it's getting dark in here for sure. For sure. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what we've got going on. We've got the sun in Aries um coming up on a conjunction with Chiron that will probably happen. next week sometime. Um, we've got Mercury still in retrograde in Pisces. We've got Venus retrograde in Pisces. Kind of love that one. And then the North Node is there as well, of course, right? Eclipses. Um, mm. And then we've also got Mars in Cancer, and it is making a trine with Venus in Pisces, almost exact, actually. Um, Yep, Mars is in a trine with Venus. Mars is also in a trine with Mercury too, and the North Node, which is cool. I think this is some good energy. First of all, Venus is exalted in Pisces, and like, not to toot my own horn, but my Venus is in Pisces. I think I'm having like a legit Venus return i- right now, literally, because she's at 26 degrees, and I'm pretty sure that's where she is on my chart. Um, but yeah, Venus is exalted in Pisces. Like she is the most Venus in Pisces, which I always love to think about. And I think that she's trining Mars in Cancer, which is like another place where Venus does really well, but Mars does not. She's giving a lot of support to Mars there right now, even though she's in retrograde. And I think I do find that kind of interesting because it's almost like reflective support. It's like support and reflection and support, which Mars needs right now in Cancer, because Mars in Cancer is obviously way more emotional than it wants to be. And so having that support of a Pisces Venus saying like, hey now, slow down. What's going on? Let's really feel your feelings. Mars doesn't like it one bit, but it needs the help. Um, and I think that so interesting. I'm actually reading a chart today for someone who has a North Node in Virgo and a South Node in Pisces, which is the opposite of where the nodes are right now. But a lot of what like kept coming up was like action versus anxiety. And I think that's a good thing, a good kind of theme to take too into this Pisces, Venus, Cancer, Mars trine of like figuring out ways to take action that will help eliminate your anxiety. And in order to do that, first you have to be really clear on what is causing you anxiety. And I do think with like the sun in Aries, this might feel like not the easiest time to figure that out, but the fact that we have both Venus and Mercury in retrograde, conjunct in retrograde, like sitting there with each other, also conjunct Saturn, not in retrograde, but right there. It's almost saying like this is your responsibility. And it is. It so is your responsibility to figure out the things that cause you anxiety. It really, really is. And then to take loving action around them. That energy is really supported right now, and it will be really supported for the foreseeable future, to be honest with you. Because these things, I mean, Mercury is going to move along, but Venus will be here for a little bit, Saturn will be here for a little bit, and Mars as well. Just playing with the chart to see like how long. Can you just move and do what I'm saying? So yeah, so Mercury is going to be out of retrograde by next week, but Venus will still be in retrograde for some time, essentially, until like the 12th, 13th of April. So a couple more weeks, right with Mars, like conjunct Saturn the entire time. So this is definitely like one of those types of retrogrades that are like, mm, there's some significance here. And it's important because it's like this whole idea of like loving what you do so that it doesn't feel like work and it doesn't bog you down. That energy is kind of coming up too and really wants to like you to be reaffirmed in that, us all, the collective, to be reaffirmed in that. Same time, like right as Venus is getting out of her retrograde, Chiron and the sun are going to be conjunct. So I'll talk about that next week when I do the astrology update, but that's going to be an interesting one too. I do feel like there's a lot of energy right now in the sky that's like heal, Heal because you have to. Heal because it's your responsibility. Heal because it's your right. Heal because that's what God wants for you. Like, God wants to see you healed. And there is so much energy in the sky for that right now. And honestly, I'm hearing it too. Like, thank you, because I need it too. You know what I mean? And like these intuitions that you're getting and the inclinations that you're getting, trust them, pay attention to them, listen to them, because everything that's coming up right now is really coming from a place of divine information and intervention. And that's it. That's what I've got for you. I love you all. I'm super grateful for you. I hope that everyone has a beautiful weekend ahead. And yes, we've got a really good episode coming up next week, interview with Rach Junard, all about regulating the nervous system. So stay tuned. Make sure you come back, send this to a friend, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Ease in Real Life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe. Please leave a review or share it with a friend who might need a little more ease in their life. Remember, creating ease is a choice we make every day, even in the hard moments. I'll chat with you next time, and until then, take care of yourself and each other.